out of all political systems, I mean, out of all economical systems, capitalism to me is the best and the greatest one by far. We can see that by the results. And on paper, we have many different systems of managing the economy and money, but ultimately, capitalism has resulted in the richest nations in the world, including the United States of America, the richest country that preaches capitalism beyond any other system or belief or thought. Capitalism allows you basically to make as much money as you can in any way you can, as long as you're not breaking the law. And I mean as much money as you can, as in if you can make millions, you're free to do it. If you can make hundreds of millions, you're also free to do it. If you can make billions, you're also free to do it. And that's why we have billionaires, multi-billionaires within ourselves. And many people have a problem with that. Like, why would one person have so much money for themselves only for themselves? They got all this money, and other people in the same country have money that barely allows them to eat for the next week. They don't have enough to feed their own families. And then these billionaires have enough to feed their entire family for the next 300 years with great luxury and without any type of scarcity. Now, when we look at this, we may at first look at the superficial part of it, and we think, well, it's wrong for these people, for these people to have so much money when somebody else has so much less. It's wrong for you to have 100 million when the other person has only $25. And that is kind of the idea of communism. But as we have seen, communism hasn't resulted in the benefits and the wealth and the great and beautiful results that we see from capitalism. Communism has not been that. Communism has been good on paper, but the countries that practice any form of communism or any kind of idea related to it, those countries are not very prosperous in terms of their economy. And that we can see with Cuba, for example. The main example and the biggest example that we all have for communism on this side of the world is Cuba. They're still living in feels like they're living in the 70s according to what is seen in videos and according to what people tell us. People that come from Cuba to live in the States tell us that life is like over there. So from that, we can easily see that capitalism is way ahead of that system, that economical system. Even when you have people who are millionaires, who are making much more than other people who can barely eat. And the justification for that would be the easy go-to of, well, the billionaires and the multimillionaires, they're creating the jobs for the middle class and the low class people. So if we didn't have the multi-billionaires, then we wouldn't have jobs for the lower class people. And then the multi-billionaires wouldn't have money, and then the lower class wouldn't have money either. So in that case, if you see it from that light, then you can understand a lot more, or a little bit more, why capitalism would be favored even when you have such discrepancies and differences in income. Now, the only problem I foresee in capitalism, made simple and expressed in simple words, is the possibility of the super rich, the super wealthy, the multimillionaires, the multi-billionaires, which are like a 1%, the top 1%, or let's say the top 2%, keeping all the money of the nation, keeping all the money in their pockets, in their hands, such that in such a way that the lower and middle class, which would be 95% of the population, 98%. If the top 2% is the top two, then the lower and middle, let's say it's 95%, and let's leave the other 3% to very, very rich. So the 95% of the population would have almost nothing to survive with. And I think we are steering slowly towards a state that's kind of similar to that right now. I mean, we're not there. Thankfully, we're not there, but we're steering slowly towards that path. So it seems, because it seems that the economy has continued to grow for the last 20, 30, 50 years. There's a steady growth as everything grows over time, but it seems that the millionaires and the billionaires are keeping most, if not all, of that growth, and then the lower classes are getting less and less and less of that growth, so that the growth is mostly and mainly moving towards the pockets of the 2%. Even though we have to admit that many in that 2% are the ones that are responsible for creating growth, for helping the growth happen, and for creating jobs. But nowadays, technology, especially now with the AI, now that we're entering this era of AI, technology is leading to a place in which the super rich, the top 2%, can make business, can make money without the use of the 95% of the lower and middle class. So they have technology, robots, AI, that would allow them to make money without the need for hiring an employee of the middle or low class. So every time I go to the supermarket, for example, the big chains, I see the automated cashiers in which you pay yourself. These machines, I'm very sure, have taken the jobs of at least, let's say, 10 to 20 cashiers. Let's say 10. Let's say 10 cashiers who would have been making, let's say, $25,000 a year ish, because now we have these automated pay yourself machines, cashiers machines. Now they fire, or they don't give jobs to those 10 cashiers that would have been making 25,000 ish. Now we have 10 people who are not making 25,000, 10 lower class, middle class income people, and then the business or the corporation is saving $250,000, 25,000 times 10 for each person. So they're saving that, and usually that money goes to the pockets of high executives, of people on top. So those savings, they're not saving to give to some other low class or middle class income. Like, they're not saving to create other jobs. They're saving so that they can make more. And usually those people on top, before the automated system, they were making, let's say, they were making maybe $300K a year, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and now they're gonna make $700,000 a year, $800,000 a year, because they're saving on those jobs that they're cutting off. So that gives you a picture of the inequality, which I was trying to explain before, the gap of the 2% and the middle and lower class. If it continues like that, that is the reason why I say we're getting there slowly. We're not there yet, and hopefully we never get there. But if we don't pay attention to this dynamics in the economy, we may suffer the consequences of too much money in the hands of a few, too much money in the hands of the 2%. And the problem with that, with too much money in the hands of a few, would be that not only are you taking away the money from the 10 cashiers that are not making $25,000 a year anymore. Now they don't have jobs. Now they got to go somewhere else, look for jobs. And other places also put machines and AI, so they're not going to find jobs over there because they don't have jobs anymore over there. So they just got rid of 10 people over there because they got a machine, and now we have 20 people who cannot find jobs because jobs are running away. At the same time as jobs run away from lower and middle class, at the same time the rich, the millionaires, the top executives are making a lot more money, and now a lot of people don't have enough money to even survive. And then the super rich have a lot more money than they had before. So the super rich can buy an extra luxury car. They can get another vacation. Instead of 1 or 2 vacations, they can get 3 now. And they can have a private jet or use their private jet 10 times a year as opposed to 3 times before. So now money is going towards the hand of the super rich, and this is capitalism, and this is good for capitalism because money is flowing freely and you are making as much as you can, however you can. But the problem is that the greed and selfishness can lead to the top 2% staying with so much of the money of the country. So amplify that example that I gave you of the 10 cashiers here not having a job, and now the top executive is making more, and also the top 10 people in another industry getting fired and also not making enough, and then each other looking for jobs at the other industry and not finding because they have even less jobs now. So that creates less jobs and more people looking for jobs and more money for the rich. The rich love it. The top 2% loves it. But the problem is what I see is that if the top 2% has all this money in their hands, in their pockets, money is not going to circulate as well as it could circulate if it was in the hands of the masses. So all this money in the hands of the 2%, let's say $1 million in the hands of one super rich guy, right? Let's say $100 million in the hands of one super rich guy is not going to circulate as well as that same exact $100 million in the hands of 1,000 people, 1,000 lower middle class people, because 1,000 people have much more purchasing power. They're going to use much more money, and they're going to push that money into the economy, and the money will flow. The economy works by money flowing. The circulation, like the blood circulates through the body, the money must circulate through the country. There must be buying and selling of goods and services consistently for our money to have value. If all of our money goes to the 2%, this is the problem. It's not gonna flow as easy. It's gonna be like an unhealthy person whose circulation is not flowing well. If all that money goes to them, circulation is gonna be stagnant, and if it is stagnant, the economy takes a huge hit, because if they have all the money and then 95% of people don't have any money, then the 95% stop spending money. They stop moving the money, making the money move. They stop spending, and if they stop spending, then the businesses and corporations of the super rich stop making money. So now the middle and the lower are not spending because they don't have any. And now also the richest are not making because nobody is buying anymore. And that is the only problem I see with capitalism. And that is, I believe that is somewhat the nature of recessions. Because think about it, we always have the same amount of people, almost the same amount of resources naturally in the world and in the country, but the way we organize people, jobs, and resources is what brings a recession. So recession, we're not buying anything from outer space, from out of the earth, and we have the same people, we have the same resources, we have the same intelligence and ability to work, but we enter into a recession because what I just explained may happen. We organized money, we mismanaged the movement and the flow of money to a point in which money stops circulating and we have a recession. A recession, in my mind, is the basis of it is money not circulating well. If money flows easy and well, then we can have a great economy. The more it circulates, the more it moves, the better the economy is going to do. And thus the way I see maybe we could stop this is implementing some type of policy or regulation. Although policies and regulations are not so good for capitalism, but you must have them in certain extreme or emergency cases to save the economy. And just like whenever we're trying to stop inflation, or whenever we're trying to increase spending or stimulate spending, just like that, I think we should have policies to stop any measures or any practices that would take away jobs from people who are making 20, 30, 40K a year, and those jobs, any practice that would take jobs from them to give more money to people who are making more than 300K a year. So in the pockets of the people making 300K, it is fine, it's good, it's great. But if that practice spreads all over the nation, then the economy takes a hit, and then the money for the middle class, the little money, the tiny bit of money they have, loses all value, and the tons of money that the top 2% has also loses a lot of value. So everyone is losing when the gap of income is too wide, is too deep. So that is my take on the only problem I see on capitalism. Thank you for listening. I'll see you later. Take care.